Hello, listeners! Happy 2023! You have landed on episode number 94 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is January 4th, 2023, and my guest in this episode is Rebecca, who is an eBay veteran. A quick announcement, just a happy shout out to everyone who not only purchased BOLO books and calendars, but those who gave them as gifts. I am so flattered by the feedback. And lots of sellers were surprised by such a thoughtful and unique gift on Christmas. I even conspired as a sneaky little elf behind the scenes with a few gift givers to disguise the package, and I put little rattling things inside the box and changed my name on the return address. So we were able to fool some people receiving the package. You know, those people who watch the mail and try to figure everything out and poke the packages under the Christmas tree. I had a lot of fun playing the sneaky little elf. So thank you very much for your business. And if you haven't purchased your BOLO book or calendar yet, both are still for sale in my eBay store. Okay, now for the conversation with Rebecca.
Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. I have Rebecca with us today. And where are you located?
We live in an area just north and west of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we are in Pine Township, which is about 20 minutes outside of the city.
Okay. Township. Yeah, that's a big thing up there in New Jersey and Pennsylvania is townships.
Everyone likes to lay their claim, I think, for different areas.
Okay. And have you had any snow yet this year?
We had our first snow that stuck just yesterday. So we have about a little under an inch. So just a dusting today.
Okay. And we are recording this on December 20th. So
right.
You'll have a white Christmas?
They're saying we may have a white Christmas, and it's been, I guess, a decade or more since we actually had snow on Christmas here.
Really?
So, yeah, which you would think we would have had, snow being in Pennsylvania, but no, I can remember when my kids were little, there was one Christmas where they played outside in the snow, but other than that, we have not had many white Christmases.
Oh, yeah, that's a bummer. Well, I don't think we've ever had one in the South.
Right.
Maybe,
right.
I think there was one in like 2010 or 11. It snowed on Christmas Day. So, but yeah, long time ago. So anyway, how old are your kids now?
So my daughter is 19 and I have a son who's 15. So two teenagers right now.
Okay. So you got one that's driving and one that's almost driving.
Right. And one in college and one at home. So
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, eBay probably helps with some of that.
It sure does. In fact, I'm actually cash flowing all of my daughter's tuition through eBay, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to crunch the numbers, when we were going through the whole financial aid process. And she's a very bright student, so she does have quite a bit of scholarships. But, given the way the economy is, I was like, let's see if we can do this without loans, without dipping into your college fund. And so this year so far has been a success. We'll see how the next 3 go, but I'm pretty much on the right path to be able to cash flow her college expenses, which is really great.
That is outstanding. Yeah. And where does she go to school?
She goes to Denison University, it's a rigorous liberal arts college that is in Granville, Ohio, which is just outside of Columbus.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a college education is a college education. So
Right.
good for you
Right.
figuring out a way to make it work. So let's back up a little bit and talk about how you got into eBay, when you got into eBay.
Okay. So I actually started eBay in 1999. So not quite at the very beginning, but close to the beginning. Um, my parents, they worked regular day jobs, but they always had an antique business. So I always had an appreciation and an admiration for nice things, antiques, and also just the idea of being able to buy something and flip it for a profit. So when eBay started, it sort of intrigued me a bit. I was in graduate school at the time, so I didn't have a lot of free time, but I did start eBay in 1999, and that was like when you still had to, you didn't even have to have photographs then. Like you would write these very long descriptions and people would snail mail you a money order, and then you'd have to wait for it to clear. So I did that very intermittently for many years, just picking up things here and there. And then when I got a scanner when scanners first came out, and so I did a little bit with postcards early on, antique postcards, because that was an easy way to actually get that photograph up on eBay. So I did that in 1999, and I just did it here and there for many years. And then my daughter was born in 2003, and I'm not sure originally how we got involved, but we became involved with there was a boutique handmade clothing community that utilized eBay quite a bit for marketing and also for sales. And so she became one of the models for some of the sellers there. And I would take the pictures just sort of as a fun thing to do. And then in return, we would either get an outfit free of charge, or for the cost of fabrics, they would make us, something nice for our work. And because of that, and because of having kids, then I started doing just reselling some of their things online there on eBay. And since then, it's snowballed. I did work outside of the reselling area for many years. And it was in the last, I believe it was the last 6 years that I sort of ramped up the eBay business to do it. I wouldn't say full-time. I've never put in full-time hours, but sort of as my main side hustle, if you will. And so for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing it more seriously.
Okay. Now you mentioned being in graduate school. What is your field of study?
Sure. So I have a master's degree in experimental neuropsychology from George Mason University, which is in Virginia. And then I have a master's degree in clinical psychology from Bowling Green State University in Ohio. I actually am the dreaded ABD, all but dissertation, in terms of my clinical work. My daughter, when she was born in 2003, had a number of really serious medical concerns. So at that point, we really had to adjust. And as a result, I never finished the PhD, but I have 2 master's degrees. And my specialty is behavioral medicine, which is sort of looking at where medical issues impact people's mental health and dealing with those.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that.
There sure is. Yeah.
So you worked in that professional field for a while?
I did. I did. I worked for a number of years. I worked for a local cancer institute here in Pittsburgh. And then after my kids were born, I really wanted and needed in part to stay home with them. So I worked as a behavioral specialist in the evenings and doing wraparound services for people in their home. And I did that until I quit doing it. I think my last client, I aged out right before the pandemic shut down. So I worked in that kind of field for many years.
So when you're out in public, are you constantly analyzing people?
Some of that just comes naturally, aren't we
Well, I
all?
mean, I
But
do that. I'm like, oh yeah, they're acting like that. They're having a bad day. Maybe they had a fight with their wife. Maybe this or that. You never know what's going on in someone's
right.
life to make them
Yeah.
behave like rude or weird or whatever it is. And so
Yeah.
I guess with that background, with that degree, you might be a little bit more analytical than the average person.
I think I probably am. My husband will always say, like, when I suggest we go out to eat with a couple or we meet, some new friend groups, he's like, oh, these people are just so wonderful and nice. I said, this is because I have screened them all. They've already gone through a screening process. So these
That's
are
pretty
the
good.
creme de la creme. So
So if you make the cut, you're special. Like we can
I'm not
tolerate
doing
you.
it.
I love that. Okay. And so then you started staying at home. I had the same situation. Just I was gonna do it all. I was gonna be super mom and work a full-time job. And then when my daughter was born, I just didn't want to be away from her. It had
Sure.
nothing to do with the people taking care of her. It was just I wanted to do it. So
Right.
I did not see that coming either.
Mhm. Well, I had the same sort of plans. I was going to finish my degree, I was going to work full time. And then when my daughter was born with the health issues, that sort of put those on pause. And
Mhm.
then when my son came along, I think just like you said, I wanted to be there. I wanted to have the same experiences I had with him that I had with my daughter, being able to
Mhm.
go to all the things and be there on the daily basis. So I don't regret that at all.
Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for moms that can do a
Sure.
full-time job
Right.
and have kids. I just couldn't get it together to get out the door in the morning. Like, oh, you're all dressed in your nice business suit, and then your baby throws up on you or whatever, and you got to
Right.
start over. I'm
Right.
like, it just might be easier to just not do this.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's the
um,
beauty of eBay, is like something comes up, you really can put the work down or do it at a later time, or, if someone's ill or whatnot, you don't have to do it. Now, certainly to be successful, you have to be consistent. You can't let personal life completely take over, but you do have that flexibility. And I really appreciate that.
and I don't know how parents out there with infants and toddlers get anything done on eBay at all. I mean, it was
Right.
hard enough. My kids are 2.5 years apart, so it was hard enough to just get through a regular day without even trying to work. Keeping everybody fed and clean and all of
Sure.
that. At the end of the day, you're like, well, everybody's still alive, so I guess I did good. But it's just
Right.
eBay
It's a
wasn't. I
success.
didn't start eBay until my kids were 6 and 8, and so they were in school all day. So
Mhm.
I have a lot of respect for these young moms with little ones because when you have a baby and then a baby and a toddler, it's like you don't know what your day is going to be. It's like good
Sure.
luck. So
Absolutely.
um
Yeah.
so you started right when your daughter was born.
Pretty much. Now I think I always had the computer in our kitchen, which helped. Like
Uh-huh.
I would always have something going. And, I look back and I think, gosh, a listing probably took me, half the day.
Yeah.
Whereas now I can, when my time is my own, I can, really ramp up. But yeah, I just tried to balance it all as best I could. And then, after naps and bedtime, then I would do the tasks that, you really can't be distracted for. So it was on a much lower, smaller scale, but I was
Mhm.
still able to do it. And I enjoyed doing it, I think, and that helped. If it had been, some task that data entry or something that maybe wouldn't have appealed to me, then I probably wouldn't have kept up with it. But because I enjoyed it and it was easy enough, I was able to make it work.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you said you started in 99 and your daughter was born in 2003. So there was some time in there. Now you said you are, I guess, second generation junker.
Yeah, you definitely could say that. My parents always had an antique shop, their own, or they were part of the consortiums when those sort of got popular, I guess, in the 90s, 80s, 90s. And my mom also had contracts with some local attorneys. So she did a number of estate sales. And as a
Mhm.
kid, I would go with her and help her at antique shows and with estate sales. And um, I wish I had paid a bit more attention. She was a wealth of knowledge, but I
Yeah.
did, glean, I think, a lot of information from that upbringing and also just sort of an appreciation and admiration for nice things. And so, you know, it, I'll go somewhere with my husband, like a garage sale or something. And he's like, how did you know that was, such and such? And it'll be, I don't really know how I knew. I just could tell that it was
Mhm.
something of value or well made, or like you say, a nicer fabric or, those kind of things. And it just sort of is ingrained. So I think my parents maybe developed my eye a bit just being in that environment for so long. And I the fun thing about eBay is there's so much to learn. Like I never get bored. You can learn constantly. And I played taxi, of course, with my kids, and I always have YouTube or a podcast going about different either things about the business end or things about different merchandise, clothing, for example. I knew children's clothing fairly well, but um, clothing is so plentiful. I really wanted to learn more about general clothing. And I think I've somewhat successfully done that. And that I can definitely attribute to YouTube and other resellers sharing their expertise.
Yeah. And what's great about the day and time we live in is there's so much information out there. You remember back in the day, early eBay, there wasn't a lot of help. And
Mhm.
the
Right,
eBay community boards, they weren't really helpful. People were very threatened by sharing information and,
right,
they didn't want to tell you. They just weren't as forthcoming as people are now.
right,
I guess
right,
because eBay was new, reselling's not new, but eBay, there weren't as many sellers and um, people didn't want more competitors coming in droves. So they just,
right.
kept
The
that
flip side,
information close.
sure. The flip side of that is though, the more people that list on eBay, the better the platform ultimately will be because you have more diversity, you have more buyers than seeking it out. And so, I never really understand. I know you're not like this, but, people not wanting to share, you know, I don't know, our thrift stores are full of things. I'm not there every day. I'm not going to be in every thrift store every day. So why not share some of that information if you know a fellow reseller or someone who might be interested in doing a bit of reselling could use that information.
That is a great perspective because you're right. The more sellers there are, then the more items are posted. And then we can look back at the sold items and see, oh, what are these bedding sets? What is this coffee mug? You can look and see
Right.
that what sold and how much it sold for. And without this large number of sellers, we're not going to get that much information.
That's right.
It's going to be more
Absolutely.
limited. So, that is a great perspective. And now we've got so much information and mentoring and, YouTube and podcasts and all these Facebook groups and different platforms, Poshmark, Mercari, all of that. People share, which platform does it sell better on? And I guess it's just the way you look at it.
Sure. You can get lost in the weeds too, though. I mean, I know myself, like probably about 3 years ago, I decided I was going to branch out onto like all the platforms, right? And I did that for about a year. And I don't think, at least at this point, it is not for me. I found myself, like you said, like then I'm listening and looking for information on this wide variety of platforms and, having to do the tweaks on all of these platforms. And so this year, I really took a step back when I knew I wanted to scale up. And, I told myself, and I do still have some things on Poshmark and on Mercari that are just there because they were already listed, but I took all the other platforms down and I said, I am just going to focus on eBay. It is what I know best. And that has really been successful for me this year. At some point, maybe I'll revisit all of the cross posting, but for me to be able to focus, I know I was way more productive than I was when I was trying to cross post everywhere.
Yeah, it does sort of thin out your efforts. And eBay has the largest customer base. I think Amazon has more, but as far as reselling used items, the largest customer base. And people ask me all the time, like, should I start a website with my own website to resell my stuff? And my first question is, how are you going to get people there?
Right.
Because they're already on eBay and they're ready to buy. And you kind of go where the people are. And I, like you, tried Amazon and Etsy, and I think Bonanza and a couple of those others that when they first came out. But then I decided about, I think it was like 2015, I'm just going to focus on eBay because it's what I like the best. And the customer base is there and I know it. And with all these other ones, there's a learning curve and that takes time.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve, and even just learning the customer base for each website, which varies, is what can I really sell here that's going to do well. And I think I wasted some time doing that. So I'm really happy with just going back to eBay, and I think I'll be here solely for a while.
Well, and I don't think any learning experience is a waste of time because you figured out that you like eBay the best, and now and you don't have to go off and explore that again.
It's a good point.
Figured it out. So, that's just business, is exploring new opportunities and new ideas and figuring out which ones you want to do and which ones you don't.
Right.
So, well, let's talk about some stuff you've sold, because you pop up on the $100 thread all the time, and which is one reason I wanted to get you on here and talk about what you're doing and where you're getting your stuff and how much profit you're making and all those things.
So I mostly get my things from Goodwills and from local thrift stores right now. And that's primarily because it's easy. I can pop in somewhere for a half hour. The items are laid out and I can go in there and, I'm not going to say I never leave empty-handed, but it's rare that I can't find something that I feel like is worthwhile to buy. If I had my choice, I would love to have garage sales all year and church rummage sales. I love, they have trunk sales here. Those I absolutely love, but They're really time limited in Pittsburgh, and my son is an athlete. So a lot of times the weekends, are caught up with his games and athletic events. And so most of the time now I'm thrifting from Goodwill. And one thing I did this year, and it was partly motivated by, I think it was this year that you did this, is I really was trying to raise my average sale price. And so I told myself that when I was thrifting, I was only going to buy items that I was planning to list for like $25 or more. Because I think in the past, if I could make a small amount of money, I would just buy it. And so I tried to instill that, and with some caveats, or if it was really interesting, I like vintage kitschy stuff. So not all of it is in that price range. If I thought it was really interesting and might, bring some traffic to my store or just get some eyes on it, I would pick it up. Or if it was really easy to list. So like if something had a SKU and was new, okay, those were passes. And then if I already owned it. So that's been a success, I think. I'm not sure my average sale price, I'd have to run the numbers again, I'm sure it's up on average for the year, but I still am filtering in a lot of things that we just are clearing out of our home. And so those aren't always in that price range, but the things I am picking up newly to list, I do try to keep that price point up.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you can't make a decision because you pick something up. Oh, I've sold that before. I know that'll sell fast. And it's not a really high dollar item, but it'll be a fast sale. And then
right.
like, well, do I really want to spend my time doing that? But I know it'll sell because I've sold it before. So you have these discussions with yourself, like the two, the angel and the devil on your shoulder, like this one says that, and this one says that. And I usually end up buying it, like $1
right.
and I can sell it for 20,
Yeah. I try to think like, who would buy this? Like who's my buyer here? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's a very small group. Maybe I won't pick it up. But then other times I'm like, oh, that's mid-century and, it's a good price point for people that, might not have a lot to spend, but like that style. So then I'll, go ahead and put it in the cart.
Well, and I'm still surprised by the why behind things because like plush, that one's pretty easy. A grown person had that as a child, or a parent is buying that for their grown child because they lost the original one and it's just a keepsake. But sometimes you're just surprised by why somebody bought something. And I wish there was something more on the feedback. Like if they leave feedback, there would be like a multiple choice. Like, why did you buy
right.
Oh, replacing a broken one, giving as a gift, something like that, because I would love to see, I'm just an information person. I just would love to see statistics.
Well, you reach out to people sometimes, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Especially if they leave a positive feedback, I've been looking for this for a long time or something like that. That's a little bit of a clue that this could be an interesting story,
right.
about, why people buy certain things. And it's just, it's still surprising to me after almost 20 years, why people buy things. And there's that psychology again. It's like, it's like the person at the mall that stops you. Hey, would you like to take this survey? We're asking, about these different buying habits. And I just think, market research is fascinating, and the psychology behind why people buy and why they pay so much for things that is just shocking. This old plush that you find at the thrift store, and it's like not even the right color anymore. It's you take it home and wash it. It's like, oh, this is blue. I thought it was brown, and
Or
it
things
sounds
that like get tossed. So like my family knows now, like don't toss the bags and boxes, like because mom's gonna sell them. And it's so true. Like I sell like my kids' tennis shoes, like into the Nike boxes, the Adidas boxes, all the stuff that electronics comes in. And sometimes they can't believe how much I got for the box. And I said, you just
Mhm.
have to think of it almost like a coupon. Like you just saved, $15 off of those shoes because I was able to flip that box on eBay. And I think, I don't know, I guess somebody has a use for that. They're going to store them or they're going to, use that in a display. So I don't know.
Well, I do have a word of caution on that situation of selling
Okay.
boxes, especially with sneakers, Nike. The people who sell fakes, they
Oh, you
buy
use them.
the authentic boxes and then they put the fakes in them. So that could be
Oh,
anything, if it's a
sure.
handbag box or
Yeah.
shoes or anything like that. There's like this black market for the box because they put the
Interesting.
fake thing in it. But there's no way for us to know. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
just somebody that wants all their shoes in boxes in their closet,
Sure.
or
Right.
they're going to resell the shoes they have that are authentic, and they
Mhm.
want a box with it because it's going to sell better. But I mean, there's no way for us to know. But there is like this underground for
The
those kinds of
authentic
boxes.
boxes.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
shocked when I learned that.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that. I mean, there are things that just globally I stay away from. Like I don't sell handbags on eBay. I wouldn't touch that.
Mhm.
It's not worth even if you have something authentic. Like I had some things that were mine. I knew they were authentic, but I no longer had like a receipt or anything. Like I will not risk putting those up on eBay. Things like that, you really have to be careful. It's not worth losing your account, um, to sell a couple items.
No, and I think a lot of people just get dollar signs in their eyes when they see these kind of things. And even if it is authentic, when you have those keywords in your listing, you are under the radar on eBay. They
Right.
they have people who check listings all day and
Right.
send out those, your listing has been removed because this item is not authentic or whatever. And sometimes it is authentic, but you just get caught up in that security feature of eBay having those words in your title, and then they pull your listing. They may put your account on suspension for a few days, like as a punishment. You can't list anything for 5 days. And so I'm like you, I just stay away from all that
Right.
stuff that could trigger further investigation of an item, because there's a lot of fraud on eBay, and it's just impossible for eBay to monitor every single listing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not worth it to be at risk.
right. And I know a lot of people do very well with designer handbags, but I just don't. I don't have time for my account to be suspended for 5 days or,
Right. Right.
lose it forever. That's just, the
Yeah.
money's not worth it. The health of your account is something you cannot put a price on. So
Correct. Right.
eBay the right way.
That's great.
So let's talk about some things you sold.
Yeah. So one of the greatest, I mean, this is sort of going back a while, but one of my greatest sales that I just loved so much was that I was at an estate sale, and in their garage, they clearly had run out of time. So they hadn't really gone through the items in the garage. And in their garage, I found, at the time, I didn't really know what it was, but what it ended up being was it was a Victorian music box that they would hang on the wall. And when you would play it, it had these really beautiful figures that would rotate through. There were ballerinas and clowns, and it was just a gorgeous item. And I remember looking in the box and thinking, this has got to be something.
Mhm.
And I think I got it for $10 or $15. And I researched it, and it wound up being like a rare Danish Victorian music box. And I had it listed for quite some time. And I think it ended up selling for around $750. But it was one of those things. I'm like, who is going to buy this? Like this, either someone who just collects music boxes or someone who has a home that could accommodate this. And it did end up going to a customer who lived on Park Avenue in New York City. So
Oh,
I
wow.
just love the idea of, me digging in someone's garage in Ohio, and that item now, hopefully being loved and admired in a beautiful place, by someone who understands the value. And so I loved that sale. It's one I think about often. Um, Recently, I sold several things that made their way to your $100 posting that I got free. And like, how crazy is that, right? So there, we went to a garage sale, and there was a younger couple, and they were just, I think they were moving, and they were just wanting to get rid of things.
Mhm.
And my husband's like, you want to stop here? And they're just like a couple boxes. I'm like, sure. So I had gotten 2 of these Redware plates, and I knew what Redware was just from being around antiques, and these were newer and they looked, decent enough to sell. But when I went home, they were signed, the artists' things, were really coveted. And so I think I got about $150 each for those. And that's just a lesson. Like, if you're out and about anyways, don't rule anything out, take a peek in the box, or ask somebody how much they're asking for something if it's not priced, because you just never know, what you might come across. So that was just, that was a really fun thing to find.
Can you elaborate on Redware?
So, a little bit. So Redware has been used for a long time. Like, I think it originated in like maybe the late 1700s, early 1800s. And so the base of it, or the back of like a plate, for example, will be unglazed.
Mhm.
And then the front has the glaze over it. And more modern ones, people will do like a painting or a pressed print design under the glaze. And so these were both pretty ornate. One was, I think, of a pheasant or something that I thought, oh, maybe around, Thanksgiving this would sell. And the other one was a cardinals. And so, yeah, it's for decorative use. I don't think you can eat on them. You certainly wouldn't be able to put them in a dishwasher or that kind of thing.
Okay,
So
well,
it's
I
just
just
a type
looked it up while you were explaining it because I'm not familiar with it. And so it's like pottery,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's more of a brick red than
Yes, it has like
bright red.
an
And
orangish.
I
Yeah.
see some of them have sort of a yellowish cream colored background with the brick red design on it.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing plates and mugs and vases and
Yeah.
all kinds of different items. So is there a marking on the bottom that says something about Redware?
No, it wouldn't necessarily say Redware, I don't think. You would just need to know that that's the type of pottery. Now, there are different potters, potters or pottery, what I want to say, like companies that mark things. And I know some specialize in Redware, but yeah, they wouldn't be marked. That's would be like the general term.
So it's more just like the way this pottery looks.
Correct.
And
Correct.
like an actual company like, Hull or Hood or
Correct.
any of those, Johnson Brothers things. This
Right.
is just has a look to it. So
Right.
listeners can Google that. It's comes up as one word, Redware, Redware.
Right.
Okay, so that is a very helpful explanation, because after looking at that and those pictures just now, I probably have passed over that thinking, oh, this is just a dumb decorative plate. You can't use it. This is just a Pier 1 plate, but no.
Sure. Well, a lot of primitive items and primitive stoneware, you almost need to know what type of pottery you're looking for, rather than relying on, oh, this will be signed or this will have a maker's mark. Earlier this year, our Goodwill, when they bring my real local Goodwill, when they bring out the carts, they'll have sort of a garbage bin or a throwaway bin on the very bottom. So if something breaks or whatnot. And I just happened to be there and I saw there was this, I knew it was a figural bank, a pig figural bank that was in there. And so I asked, I said, I'm interested in buying that. And she's like, oh, you don't want that. It's, it's all chipped up. I said, no, I'd be interested in it as is. And so they went back and priced it for me and I bought it. And that brought, I think, $380. I paid like $299. And I knew about that because my parents had an extensive collection of salt glazed stoneware, which is like the gray looking pottery, often with like blue decoration. And my father also had a very extensive collection of sewer tile, which is like a folk art kind of thing. And among his things were some of these pigs. And I had sent those to auction when they passed away. So I was thrilled to find this pig, and the person that got it was equally thrilled to get it in its state, all chipped up. But that's a case where if I hadn't known, I would have never seen that out of the corner of my eye and even taken a second glance. So yeah.
Well, it is interesting that thrift stores don't know everything. And I told this story somewhere along the line, but I recently started finding Fontanini figurines. And I was in a thrift store and there was a tub, like a big tub of a whole bunch of them in the boxes.
Oh,
and they
wow.
were marked between $2 and $3.50 each. And so I asked the manager, I'm like, can you make me a bulk buy deal on this if I take all of them? And so she's looking through them to see what they are, make sure she's not giving them away. But she gave me a price and it was about $10 less than they would have been if I hadn't gotten the deal. But she says to the cashier, oh yeah, these are just these, resin nativity things. They're not worth anything. And I want you to know that I listed those immediately because I found them at in the beginning of December. And I'm like, these are probably going to sell the best in December.
Sure,
And
right.
they sell as soon as I list them.
Right.
And I'm not pricing them too low because, they're not from the 80s. They're from the late 90s and early 2000s. So they're not the super valuable ones. But I feel like people that needed replacements or like, we don't have the camel. We're looking for the camel.
Right. I
They
know
also,
some people like
for between $20 and $30. And
sure.
they, were $2 a piece. So it was easy. It was fast, easy to ship. And I just had to control myself when that manager said, oh yeah, these are just like dumb little nativity things. They're not worth anything. I'm like, they don't know what Fontanini is. So
yeah.
the next time I could find the valuable ones, like a whole set, and they don't know everything. You got to be smarter than the thrift stores.
Right. That's the thing, people, I keep a pretty, I'm a pretty quiet person and I keep a pretty low profile. I know a few other resellers in the area, but I'm not somebody that will like strike up conversations, with
Right.
somebody in the Goodwill. And it was funny. I was at this thrift store that I go to frequently, and there were these three men, and they were just complaining up and down about the prices in this store and how they've increased, and they can't find anything, and blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, I'm like going with my cart, and they it's true, they had increased the prices like everywhere lately, and I'm putting things in my cart, and I'm like happy as a clam. I'm like, if you would quit complaining and maybe expand what you're looking for, or work a little harder digging in here, maybe you would have more luck. And when I went by, I had my phone cha-chinged, and the one's head, just whipped around. And I thought, isn't this sort of funny, how life is? But yeah, they can't know everything. And, if certain thrift stores do try to start pricing things higher, then it's just time for you to shift, shift to something else, or learn something else yourself that, might be the next best thing. So that's how I think of it. You can't really control what prices or what information the people that are pricing at the thrift stores are going to
And I
have.
think it depends on who's doing the pricing in the back.
Oh, definitely.
There's so much turnover at thrift stores. That's not really a career. That's just a part-time job that you do when you're bored.
Sure.
Like that's just, works for you. So, you've got this person back there who's getting off work in 30 minutes, and they got to price all this stuff. They don't care. They're just putting prices on things. There's just, I know that a lot of Goodwill items go to their online auctions. I know that they are pulling things that look valuable to them, but it's not they can't put everything online. There's just too much stuff. And I think maybe people are giving up too soon, thinking that, Goodwill's putting everything online. I'm not going to find anything. The prices are too high. You just, like you said, you have to go in a different direction and figure out what's valuable that they don't know or care about. Like, are they going to put $50 on a tie, like a men's tie?
Correct.
Some of those ties sell for $100. I always look for those, and they can't price everything up. So you just have to. I mean, it is some work to study and learn, but you also have to have the attitude of, okay, what am I going to find today?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There was, I think I have posted things I've sold. There was a unique situation here. It was probably last year actually, where there had been an estate sale, and the gentleman who owned the home had decided that and I guess there was just a plethora of stuff remaining at this estate sale, and he had decided that he would just give it all away. And so the real estate agent was actually the one who wound up posting something on just like our local Facebook, we're going to be opening up their estate, and you may come and take what you want. And it was like almost like one of these, this is too good to be true kind of situations. And he had pictures, and there were some really high end, I want to say like porcelain things, and there was a lot in the home. People came, and I just came. My husband works full time, so I just came myself, and I had my bags, and I thought, well, we'll see how this goes. And there were people there that literally had employees. So there were people that were like a group of 10, and they had all these, plans based on the photographs. And I'm like, oh gosh, how is this going to be? So when they opened the doors, I thought, I am not going to stay in the main level. I am going to go upstairs by myself and see what I can do. So I did just that. And, did I get the high-end porcelain tchotchkes? No, but I got things that sold really, really well, and I didn't have to fight the crowds, and I was able to do it just me. One thing I found, and my husband's like, oh my gosh, but there was vintage, new with tags, underwear, a lot of it, lingerie, nicer lingerie, and then some men's items. And it was a room that people had gone through. I mean, it was a mess. And I just scooped all of that up, and probably all together, I probably have made maybe $1,000 on the items that I got out of that bedroom that a lot of other resellers had been through, and just, it wasn't the highest item, so they didn't take a second look. So, you can find things if you just sort of change your mindset, I think.
Well, I think you have to have some guts to sell vintage panties.
You do.
I mean,
you do.
to like buy them and have the checkout person see that you're buying them, and then to work with them. I mean, that's not for everybody. That's like,
That's true.
wow, you're brave to do that. And some people just don't care. If they can make money, they don't care. But those were the people that were in front of you that just, that was not in their wheelhouse. Like,
not in their wheelhouse.
They weren't looking for that at all. And you just don't know who's been there before you and what they know.
Right. Very true.
So was any of it La Perla lingerie?
No, not La Perla. It was mostly just, Lily of France, and just, some of the, what it would have been department store brands, of the time. But they were nice things, peignoir sets and, negligees and things like that. So, they did really well for me.
Oh, the stuff that Samantha Stevens wore on
right. Yeah, or
had the prettiest nightgowns and robes, and the chiffon, and that's where my mind goes when I see that stuff, because I just
or the like short ones like the women on Mad Men wore. Some of the
baby dolls.
Really, baby dolls. So it was cool. It was really cool.
That's fun. Yeah, it's like jackpot, but you can't be excited. You just have to
right.
Nothing to look at here. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Just go along with your day. What has been your highest sale ever?
Fairly early on. So before 2003, I did help my mom sell some vintage robots, antique robot toys via auction. She had maybe, I don't know how many there were in total, maybe 10. And they required a lot of research. They were very specific toy makers and designs, and they were in just excellent condition. Many of them had like their original boxes. And we sold several of those for over $3,000. So via auction, they were very rare. So I think 3 of them, I remember we made almost $10,000. And so 3 of them went for over $3,000 each.
Oh, that's incredible.
That was, it was one of those auctions where it was like, they were doing well, and, these are going to sell well, we'll be pleased. And then in that last, half hour, I just like kept refreshing my computer, like, oh my gosh. And I was on the phone with my parents, like, oh, it's at 2,500. And it was a fun time.
Yeah, I remember that when it was only auctions and you would just sit there and refresh to watch the bids go up.
Yeah. I still like to run some auctions, and I know people, I'll do it if something, I'm not quite sure about something, I'll put in that starting bid for what I'd be willing to take and see. But then I also try to keep a few auctions going. I feel like it does drive some traffic to the store. Oftentimes, like, someone might buy 1 or 2 things if they also buy an auction or win an auction. And so I do try to keep a few auctions going, but I'm not the kind of person that's willing to lose money, on auctions or otherwise, but especially on an auction. So, yeah.
Well, I see you are in your eBay storage area, I guess.
I am.
How many
Don't
things
look
do
too
you?
closely.
Well, I'm like shopping. I was like, is that a longer burger basket?
Yeah.
Where's that silver thing? I see a Trivial Pursuit game. How many items do you have listed?
I have right now I have 1,525 items.
Okay.
Until this year, the highest I had ever had listed was 800. So like I said, with trying to pay for my daughter's tuition, I've really ramped up in terms of the number of items I'm listing. And I'm trying to, I don't do it, exactly with the math, but I try to put about 10% right back into my pocket to use for thrifting.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and I always have a draft bank as well. Like I like to keep a pretty big draft bank, like somewhere between like 50 and 200 items drafted. And the reason for that is like I will use my time. So I'm in the basement, obviously, you can
Mhm.
see, but like in the evening, if I need to be available to my children or, want to watch television with my spouse, I will just bring some group of things up there and draft them while I'm doing that or in between tasks so that I'm trying to use my time as efficiently as I can.
Mhm.
My hardest thing for me is photographing.
Mhm.
I really have to push myself to photograph consistently, particularly clothes. And so I actually had to tell myself like you can't get above 200. Okay. Like start taking the darn pictures if your
Uh-huh.
draft bank, gets that big. But I do like to have them because then sometimes if I don't, if my kids have to use the computer or I want to be a little more active, then I'll do just photographs. And I have that bank there that allows me to do that.
So with 1,500 items listed, about how many items do you sell a day?
Somewhere between, I mean, it does vary. I would say between 7 and 15. Like today, I just packed for today, and I had 7 things to pack, but I shipped a few because of the holidays. I did ship some things that sold yesterday early with my previous day. So probably about 12 or 13 items sold today, but it does, it varies. Over There's been a few weekends recently, which I feel fortunate for, where I had almost 40 things to pack. And that's a lot,
That
especially
is.
when mostly hard goods, it does require a lot of care and packaging. So those were some rougher Sunday evenings and Monday mornings for me. But I am grateful, obviously, for the sales. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm like you. I do ship some things in the evening so that the next morning isn't so overwhelming if I see that, there's a lot of sales coming in, which being
Right.
almost to Christmas, like last week was just crazy with sales. So
Yeah, it was
keep
a
up with the
great week.
shipping, which I don't mind.
Mhm.
It's just I just don't want to do it all at one time if it's a lot.
Right. Yeah, I made that mistake a couple times and or like after a vacation, I'll come this last vacation again, it's a blessing to be able to be selling when you're, on the beach. But when I came home, I think, from 10 days, I had like over 100 items and I was just like, oh my gosh, will this ever end? But I did give myself an extra, I think 2 days. So it worked out. It just was a lot of work,
Yeah.
coming home.
Yeah, that is a lot, but hey, it's one job where you can make money
That's
on when you're
right.
on vacation. I love
That's
that.
right.
Okay, so we've been going about an hour, and my last question is always, what kind of advice would you give to other sellers? You have a long eBay history, so you've seen a lot of different things and come and go, and probably changed your business a few times. So, what wonderful advice do you have?
Well, I think for someone brand new starting out, I think the best thing you can do is list things you own. make the mistakes with things that you would have normally, donated to charity, or you just want to clear out anyways, and learn, from that process. You don't need to go out and spend several $100s on thrifting, especially if you're someone who hasn't been doing that for a while or really knows what to thrift. Try to learn the basics with things that maybe you were getting rid of anyways. And I think with any platform, but particularly eBay, it's ever changing. And every time there's a change, if you follow social media, people will be in an uproar. How many people are leaving eBay? Sales are terrible, on and on. And you can't get caught up in that minutia. You have to just keep going. So I know, I don't know how long ago, maybe a handful of years ago, where there was that great picture deletion. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of pictures were deleted, I think from drafts and maybe even from people's listings.
Yeah, there was some kind of glitch. You're right. It was like 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely was impacted by that. I had like 300 listings where I lost pictures, and I hadn't saved them because that isn't my process. And, I only allowed myself to pout for about a day. And then I was like, okay, how am I going to resolve this? I just have, at least the listings are still there, the words. Right. Let's start, taking the pictures, and, try to surround yourself with people. Like your web page or your Facebook page is excellent. And there's a number of other ones that just don't let people complain for the sake of complaining. Because whether you realize it or not, that just sort of brings you down. It's just like a regular work environment. If people are always being like a permanent pallbearer, who wants to be around them?
Oh my gosh.
Surround yourself with people that are chugging along and seeing the positive and having results. And I think that is how you can keep that attitude going. It's harder than it looks. I tell people sometimes, I resell on eBay, and they're like, I think they think it's a whole different thing. They think it's like, when you post something on Craigslist just to sell it, or when you want to make it a business, it is harder. So you need to treat yourself with some compassion and realize that, you are working, and it is a legitimate business. But with that, comes some flexibility. You have to be flexible, and you have to just roll with the punches. And I think if you, keep that in mind, then when changes are made or glitches happen, they're not devastating. They're just part of the process.
Yeah, I call that staying out of the weeds. Just
right.
Surround yourself with people. And I get emails from people all the time. I've been listening to your podcast or watching your videos, and, I want to start eBay. And then they'll go into all the negatives. And my answer is, I'm not here to convince you.
Right.
eBay might not be for you. And, I'm here for people that already know, they're already on track, and they know this can work, and they have a positive attitude. I'm not here to convince anybody, and I don't want to. Like, either you get it or you don't, kind of thing. And I've told a lot of people, doesn't sound like eBay's for you. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like a job where you get paid hourly. Things can take a long time to sell. There's a lot of unpaid hours up front. And you have to have the entrepreneurial mindset of, this is going to pay off later. Other people are successful. I can be successful. And, if you have that attitude, I can definitely help you, but not if, like, I'm not going to convince you that, what your friend told you is not true. You got to figure that out for yourself, because millions of people do this. Yeah.
Right. As a psychologist, like, sometimes we'll ask people, that are on the fence about something, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? And with reselling it, if the worst thing that can happen when you get started is you lose maybe a box full of things you were going to send for donation anyways, then are you willing to take that risk or not? If the worst thing that can happen when you stay on a platform that's having glitches is you have to put in some more hours, can you tolerate that or not? And
Yeah.
if you answer no, then like you're saying, it's not for you then. There's something else out there maybe that you're better suited for.
I love the people that the light bulb has just come on, like, oh my gosh, you mean I can go find things and buy them cheap and resell them? Oh yeah, that's going to work. I can totally do that. I love those
Right.
people because they're excited about it. They see the opportunities. They see other people being successful. And it's like, yeah, I'm totally doing this.
Uh-huh.
And those are the people who make it. Like,
Right.
they
Right.
get it. So you're one of those.
I'd like to think so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast
Thank you
and
for
talk about
having
your
me.
business. It was nice to finally meet you face to face.
Yes, nice to meet you as well.
Virtually face to face, I guess. Yeah. And we will look for some more of your sales on the Facebook group.
Great. Thanks so much, Suzanne. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Rebecca, as I always love meeting other sellers when creating these podcasts. And I'm going to throw this out there. We'll see what happens. But if you are interested in coming on as a guest on a future podcast, reach out to me and let's discuss to see if you are a good fit for the show. You can message me on Facebook or email me at suzanne@suzanneawells.com. Please do not contact me through my eBay store because it is against eBay policy to discuss anything unrelated to buying and selling on eBay. But don't be shy. I know there are a lot of you out there who would make excellent guests. Everyone has a different story. It doesn't matter if you just started selling a month ago or if you've been selling for 20 years. Everybody's journey is different, and I think we can learn from each other when we talk about our businesses. Okay, moving on to today's trivia question. How was silly putty invented? Here are a few seconds to think about it. Okay, silly putty was invented by accident. During World War II, engineer James Wright was working for the U.S. War Production Board, trying to create an inexpensive substitute for synthetic rubber at a General Electric lab in Connecticut. When he dropped boric acid into silicone oil, he got a substance that was stretchier and bouncier than rubber, with a weird added feature. When you flattened it against a newspaper or comic book page, it picked up a perfect copy of the print it touched. Cool though that was, Wright's discovery turned out to be no better than the synthetic rubber that already existed. The government didn't want this nutty putty, but a few years later, businessman Peter Hodgson noticed what a hit the stuff was at a party. He named it Silly Putty and marketed it as a toy, packaging it in colorful plastic eggs because he put it out around Easter time. And one piece of trivia about Silly Putty. It was first sold in 1950 for $1. Today it retails for the same price. But don't think you're scoring the same deal as your parents or grandparents. Silly putty eggs used to contain 1-ounce lumps. Now they hold less than half an ounce. So the price has never changed, but the amount you get has decreased. Next week, my guest is Kathleen, who is also in Pennsylvania, who is an eBay veteran and started when eBay started. She is a self-taught antiquer, and she's in the process of downsizing everything in her life And I just really love her perspective on that. Okay, everybody, that is a wrap for episode number 94. I feel like we should all get together for a party when I hit episode 100. And that is a big deal to me that this podcast has survived for almost 100 episodes. And not just survived, but thrived. And it grows every week. So thank you, listeners, for the honor of your time. Make it a great week on eBay and keep moving forward. Remember, slow progress is still progress. Bye, everybody.